The only guy making $19 million a season at the safety position. He passes Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's making $18.3 on average. Chris Hassel joined by Brady Quinn. We're going to talk about some other players who are going to get their payday very soon, but let's start with Derwin. What'd you think of the deal that the Chargers made for their great safety?
I loved it for him, and I loved it for the safety market. Almost resets the market in the way. But look, this is a special, special player, a rare talent. I think no one's going to dispute when he's on the field. He's one of those chess pieces that defensive coordinators can move around, put in a variety of spots. He's going to be impactful in the run game. He can cover. He can play out in space. He can do it all. The only concern is when he's on the field. You know, you mentioned the injury history in 2019, 2020. I think you probably feel a little better about that as a Chargers fan, seeing how well he played last year coming off those two riddled seasons. But look, that's the risk that the team takes. I mean, I love this as a former player to see a guy who's cashing in, who is every bit as talented as you hope for. So, you know, when you go back and look at that list of other safeties who've cashed in, look at how they're utilized within the defense. They don't just play one role. They're not just playing down the box the whole time. They're not just playing back the deep middle of the field or deep half the field. They're playing multiple roles within the defense, whether it's blitzing, coverage, stop the run, playing as the force defender out there in coverage, matched up on running backs, tight ends, and even sometimes on wide receivers. So that's what you have to do nowadays to play the safety position in the NFL. That's exactly what Derwin James can do.
Only played 5 games combined between 2019 and 2020, but the 2 seasons he's been healthy the whole way, 2018 and 2021, a first-team All-Pro, the best safety in the league. Let's look at some other stars who are due for big contracts, a bunch of money, and let's start with Lamar Jackson. Unique circumstances here. He's doing his own deal with his mother, and Brady, he said that he's not going to negotiate at all once the season starts.
I always find that hard to believe when you hear a player say that. I mean, you get a couple games in the season and they throw the deal that you've been trying to get the entire time. You're going to say no, just because we're a few weeks in the season. I find that hard to believe. But hopefully Lamar and his mama can figure this one out, because he's worth every penny of a contract that's somewhere in the ballpark of $44 million per year. That'd put him up there along the likes of guys like Josh Allen, who's obviously signed an extension, but he's a 2-time Pro Bowler, former league MVP. We know how good he is and how dynamic of a playmaker he is. I think the only concern you have moving forward is, have we seen him at his ceiling, or is he going to continue to get better? My money is on him getting better as a passer from the pocket. I think you're going to continue to see that. So the one hang-up's obviously the fact that he's staring a couple franchise tags, or maybe 3 franchise tags, dead in the face. That's extremely expensive for the Baltimore Ravens. And that's where you look at, Steve Bisciotti and the rest of the ownership there, the front office there in Baltimore. They're probably saying to themselves, what is he looking for? Most likely north of the Deshaun Watson deal. I mean, that's the benchmark right now. I don't know that any owner wants to give that up at this point in time, a $230 million fully guaranteed contract, especially one that's got the injury risk like we saw last year with Lamar Jackson, who can run the football so effectively. So it's going to be interesting to see when this deal gets done, how long the deal is, and then how much he gets in guarantees. That's the number that I'm looking for. I don't think he's going to get to the $230 million mark. I do think he could flirt with the Aaron Rodgers of the $150 million. That would make some sense given his age, given his impact on the team. But again, there is some injury risk. So this deal hopefully will get done sooner rather than later, because Lamar Jackson is as deserving as any player in the NFL.
Rodgers, the most AAV. You mentioned Deshaun Watson, the most guaranteed money. We'll see if they can get something done for Lamar before the season starts. Russell Wilson, much different part of his career. Brand new beginning with the Denver Broncos. Brady, he turns 34 this season. He's under contract for this season and next, but you think they're going to get something done for him sooner rather than later?
Quite a unique spot, for a guy who was, a 9-time Pro Bowler in Seattle, now, takes his talents to Denver, and they happen to have an ownership change. So, really the team that's bringing you in there literally just transitions to new ownership, and now all of a sudden you're going to come asking for a new contract. Might be tough to do, but it's only going to get more expensive now, really for the Walton ownership group there in Denver, if you wait another year from now, and if the Denver Broncos are as successful as I think they're going to be this upcoming season. Look, they've been a quarterback away on this roster from going to the playoffs and making a run. Russell Wilson now brings you the opportunity to do just that. And if you really look at the total cash he's going to receive this year alone, he ranks 15th in the league. So you can make the case he's really underpaid for the type of talent he brings to the table. He's a top 10 quarterback, in my opinion. So, look, they're going to get, some flack maybe for doing this 2 years before he's going to reach free agency. But I think that's the more economical way in the long run for the team You already gave up a bunch of draft capital to go get him. Why not sign him to this extension now? Because it's only going to be more expensive in the future, especially when they have success.
That's the way it keeps going. I mean, you've argued with Pete Prisco about this over the years. Why don't teams try to get things done sooner rather than later with quarterbacks? Because that price tag goes up almost ridiculously by the season.
Yeah, and part of the answer is the amount of guarantees. I mean, now you're looking at, you have to have, all those guarantees you basically put in escrow if you're the ownership group. And it's hard to do that when you're talking about a contract that, again, in Russell Wilson's case, given his age of 34 years old, he's probably not going to get a long-term deal unless he really does plan to be in Denver for the long haul, and they can spread that huge signing bonus over those and prorate them over the coming years. That would be one way to at least help reduce his cap hit. But again, he'd be flirting with 40 years old at that point in time. I think you're going to see an extension, given that he has 2 years left on his deal, somewhere in the ballpark of 3 or 4 years. You're probably going to see that new money average be in the ballpark of 44, 45 million. And then in total guarantees of that new money in that extension, it's probably going to be somewhere north of $150 million. I think he's going to try to look to surpass the Aaron Rodgers deal that he recently signed this offseason. So that's where I kind of see it, playing out. And again, it has more to do with his age than anything else. But we'll see what the new ownership group wants to do. It's obviously a lot of money to shell out and have to put away for a guy that you haven't seen play that in your uniform.
Let's go to the other side of the ball on players that are next up to get a big payday. Nick Bosa, one of those guys, has his 5th-year option next season. Brady's coming off the best season as a pro.
Yeah, he's coming off his best season, and the 2 seasons he's been healthy, he's a Pro Bowl caliber player. So you would imagine that they're looking forward in the future, saying this is the type of guy in a passing league we have to lock up. He's as impactful as you'll find. 15.5 sacks just a year ago and led the leagues in tackle for loss. So it's not just he's impactful on passing downs. He's an every down player, and I think he's going to look to shoot somewhere north of T.J. Watt's deal, where you try to get that average annual value of over $28 million per year. But honestly, if you're talking about total guarantees, he's going to look to his brother's deal. That's the deal that he really wants to pass, is Joey Bosa's deal, and try to make over that $78 million mark guaranteed at signing and over the $100 mark in total guarantees or practical guarantees within his contract. So quite the heyday there for the Bosa family, having 2 such talented pass rushers and edge rushers cashing in on big deals. But Nick Bosa is worth every penny.
How about to the linebacker position and Roquan Smith in the final year of his rookie deal and demanding a trade out of Chicago?
Look, you draft the guy 8th overall, and he's led your team in tackles every single year since you drafted him. I think you'd like to think that this is what you'd hope for. That the team should look to extend him and keep him on the roster. But you got a new general manager, a new head coach, guys who didn't draft him and didn't necessarily select him and haven't coached him yet. So, look, these things tend to be a little bit contentious. And again, this is another guy's negotiating his own deal. And you wonder if this would have gone differently had he had someone else helping him out. We talked about Lamar Jackson earlier. Roquan Smith is another one we fall into that category. And if you'll recall, Kyler Murray, who got his deal earlier this offseason, his agent was very vocal about going to the Arizona Cardinals and presenting him with an opportunity to sign him to a long-term deal. And so that's what agents can do for you, is they can kind of go out there and make sure that you get word out to the press that you'd like to stay there long-term, you'd like to negotiate a deal and put some pressure on the franchise. When you do it as a player and you don't have someone advocating for you like that, it makes it sometimes a little bit more difficult. But look, in this case, you'd think Roquan Smith's going to sign a deal somewhere north of C.J. Mosley's deal, which he signed a few years ago. But that deal seems to be probably the benchmark for him. Shaquille Leonard, which I'm still getting used to, by the way. For those of you who don't know, Darius Leonard is actually going to be called Shaquille. I don't think that Roquan Smith's going to quite get to that number, given how impactful in the resume that Leonard's put forth in his career so far. But somewhere around $17.5 million per year and a $33 million at signing in guarantees, over $50 million guarantee, is probably where Roquan Smith would end up signing.
One more player for you, Brady, and it's a guy on the offensive line, but not at the money-making position. Quenton Nelson, not a tackle. He's a guard, but man, has he been incredible. Your fellow Notre Dame alum, final year of his rookie deal, and he's been an all-pro all 4 years of his career.
It's absolutely incredible. I mean, 4 years, 4 times all-pro. And really, when you think about the Colts, he's been their best player. Hands down, most consistent. He's only missed 4 games over the 4 years he's been there. But you said it. He plays guard. He doesn't play tackle. And so usually that doesn't come along with that big price tag that your typical typically look at seeing here, but he's going to reset the guard market. He'll leap Joe Tooney, who currently is sitting at the benchmark there at the top. You can look at Brandon Sheriff and some others. But the reality is $17 million should be the mark here, if not higher than that. I think you're looking at somewhere along a 5-year, $90 million deal when it's all said and done, and north of $50 million at signing. Again, he's worth every penny of it when you look at the tape and everything he's done so far. He's on the track to be a future Hall of Famer. So if you're the Colts, you got to keep him around for Matt Ryan towards the end, and then whatever quarterback ends up coming in after Matt Ryan retires.
Brady Quinn with us here on CBS Sports HQ. Guys who are about to get paid, whether it's tomorrow or a little bit down the road. We just saw Derwin James become the highest paid safety in the NFL today. Pick Six podcast, keeping you current on everything going on in the NFL leading up to the season. We have 2 more preseason games to go, and then week 1 in early September. The latest episode, Will Brinson, John Breach answering your mailbag questions, including should the Vikings be worried about their new general manager and why the 49ers are trading Jimmy G.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.